God aften og velkommen til den 11. time. I aftenens program kan vi præsentere den helt særlige svenske sangerinde, som optræder under navnet Perro del Mar. Bag det navn gemmer sig altså en svensk sangerinde, som jeg synes, det er værd at blive længe oppe for at opleve. Men først skal jeg præsentere en amerikansk kunstner, som var meget succesfuld på kunstscenen i New York i midten af 80'erne. Han udstillede allerede som 25-årig på Museum of Modern Art, hvor hans billeder blev vist, og han var en kæmpe stor succes. Men pludselig så producerede han ikke kunst længere. Det gik i stå. Der var pludselig et stort vakuum, og der kom ikke noget. I stedet der startede han et legetøjsfirma og producerede legetøj. Og det stod på i 10 år. Og pludselig vendte kunsten tilbage, og det skete, da 2 fly fløj ind i World Trade Center. Jon Kessler, welcome to the 11th hour.
Thank you.
At first, when I heard that your art starts with the events of September 11th, it's not to offend you, but I thought, this event and the pictures from the World Trade Center has been used by so many people in so many different situations that personally I was a little tired of listening to stories about September 11th.
Well, that's a good point. But I do think, Michael, that politicians, the media, Al-Qaeda, they've all exploited the events and sensationalized the events of 9/11. And I don't see any reason why artists, in the same way, can't use those methods as a weapon. One of the complicated things about my work and one of the contradictions is that I do use the media and surveillance to expose itself. So that's inherent in the work. At the same time, on a very personal level, I live in Tribeca, very close to the World Trade Center. My daughter was going to school a block away. She was evacuated after the first blast. My wife went and got her, and as they were walking out of the school, they saw the second blast.
I just told the viewers that at that point you haven't produced art to show off for 10 years.
That's correct.
So ironically, the terrorist is part of your comeback as an artist. You're all over the world now. Your shows is in galleries all over the world.
Yes.
And now in Denmark, at the Museum of Louisiana. Let's look at one of the first
Sure.
pieces. I just need my pen.
Well,
this piece is a part of the exhibition.
yes.
And it's a moving sculpture in a way.
That's right. It's
Yeah?
a mechanism. And it's called 1 Hour Photo. And it is reproducing the mechanism of a 1 hour photo developing machine and drawing machine. And this was the first piece, as you said, the events of 9/11 really did change the course of my life. And it was my wake-up call. And this was the first piece that I made. And I couldn't get the image of what the terrorists saw in the cockpit out of my mind. And so I decided I would simulate that, recreate it, and try to make it.
The point of view from the cockpit.
That's right. Now, this was not the image that we were watching on television. That was the plane going into the building. This is the evil image. This is, actually what the terrorists would have seen.
But at first it looks like, a postcard stand from a souvenir shop.
That's right.
You have the postcards moving and they're almost, they're showing the same
That's right.
skyline.
It's very, in some ways, it does have an innocence, the machine. It's all showing postcards of the World Trade Center. Some of the postcards I bought previous to 9/11, and these would just say, oh, like this one, for example, which has no writing on it at all. Others would say, United We Stand. I bought that after the event.
So there's different postcards before and after?
Yes, very much so. All of a sudden, the building was very much a target of the sensationalism of the event, and it became a souvenir immediately.
But looking at this, how do you get the point of view from the cockpit in the aeroplanes?
Okay, so it's quite simple. It's and this is part of the what I try to do in my work, which is when you think about those buildings, the World Trade Center, those were brought down with box cutters. Those were brought down with very simple technology. And that's what I'm trying to reproduce in my work. So what we have, you could actually, if you look down here.
You have these chains, so that makes it move.
The chains make it move. There's one motor, there's gears, and it's slowly bringing these postcards around and around. And as they come down to this point, you can actually see a camera here, and the postcards are moving towards the camera.
So this is a very small camera?
It's a surveillance camera. This is what typically would be installed in a building, wide angle, to surveil the public.
So yeah.
Yeah. So
The ones that
are installed in your bathroom, for example. But so what you do, so you have these buildings coming, these postcard, the image coming at that's the reason why the postcards are positioned in different places. So it's very exact where the World Trade Center is coming towards the camera. And as it does, it simulates you going into the building. And then, in fact, the postcard brushes up against the camera and it does appear like the building is falling.
Very simple, but very effective.
Yeah, yeah. And that's typical of the way that I work, where the image that's created on the monitor is quite sophisticated and does relate to special effects and media like Photoshop, After Effects. But the fact is that what creates those images are incredibly simple.
But for you, why is it important to see this from the terrorist point of view?
Well, it's not. I couldn't get the image out of my head. I mean, this is, after the events of 9/11, this is the image that was recurring, even though the rest of the world was looking at the other scene. They were looking at what was almost like a visual mantra that the news was putting on the air all day long, of the the plane going into the buildings. But I saw a different image, and I decided that in order to exercise it, in order to try to get it out, I was going to have to make it. So that's how this piece came to be.
And here your experience as a toy producer comes in handy, because this is built by you and you put all the mechanical stuff together.
That's right, I make everything myself.
And that is also a part of the next piece. What is the title of this one?
This is called Theater of Ideas.
Okay, and again we have the surveillance camera, which is moving around here.
Yeah.
But did you do all the invention of this?
Yes. So this is a mechanism that I never made before, and I try to do that when I make a sculpture. I try to actually reinvent the wheel every time I do it in order to keep it exciting. Mm-hmm. So this I wanted to simulate a film technique of the flicker, of the shutter, of projector. So that's what these wheels are actually doing. They're flickering, making the image flicker.
So it's like being in an old-fashioned cinema?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then this is a mechanism which is making the camera actually turn around. And there's different layers here. And this is a piece...
So the first layer is kind of blood, what do you call that?
Like blood splatter.
Blood splatter?
Like a splatter film. Or I really think about that as a kind of reference to art in some ways, Jackson Pollock paintings. But as well, the way Kurosawa uses blood in his films as a kind of way to symbolize the sensuousness of violence. And
so from the Kurosawa blood to the traditional Japanese theater, which is the next layer, kabuki?
That's right, kabuki theater. I've been interested in Asian culture for a long time, and I did a lot of work in the 80s about that. And in this piece, it's really referencing this idea that in kabuki theater, you have all the men are all the actors, so you have a suspension of disbelief. And then you have no new kabuki plays being written, so they're always the same plays being done and done. And to me, that is that is somewhat of a reference to the war in Iraq and how it's kind of like, did we not learn anything from history? History is just repeating itself, and it's turned out to be another Vietnam. In fact, worse than Vietnam in some ways.
But the kabuki theater, I've known it to be very violent.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It doesn't. It's not all very violent, but it's theater that is so incredibly hyper dramatic. It is, everything is stylized and brought to an incredible spectacle. And when someone dies in kabuki theater, they really die. They get their head cut off, blood spurts out, and then it's agony. It can be screaming for like 15 minutes.
Okay. The next layer, that's also maybe from your period as a toy producer. We have action soldiers.
Yeah. Well, I wish I produced those. If I produced the G.I. Joe, I'd be a very rich man. But so yes, I've always used a lot of toys in my work, and I've used a lot of found objects in my work all through the years, for now 25 years. And those figures represent the Blackwater employees that were burned and hung from the bridge in Fallujah. So there's a reference to, now it goes from, culture, via the blood and the kabuki into kind of more real events. And so that's what those figures are that are tied to the structure of the piece itself and going around and hung by rope.
Yeah. Now we are going maybe to the second most shown visual symbol next to the World Trade Center, the pictures from the prison in Iraq, Abu Ghraib, which is the middle of
that's right. There's
the moving theater. It's can you describe the...
I can. It's not, the actual figure that I was basing this off of, and this is the beauty of art, is that it's really about interpretation, and I wasn't trying to duplicate it exactly, but the real figure is standing on a box. He's wearing a kind of burlap sack. His arms are out. There's wires coming from his arms, and he's wearing like a hooded cap. Mm-hmm. And so I was referencing that with this figure in the center, and he's got his pants pulled down, and he's bearing his ass, to the world, and he's on display. He's really at the center of this theater, and so, I think what's important to talk about this piece is that this was unlike the piece about the World Trade Center, which I made in 2003 and showed in 2004. This piece was made for the show that's at the Louisiana. It was made in the series called The Palace of 4 a.m., where I was directly dealing with the buildup of the war in Iraq, the war, the mission accomplished moment of a war, this assumption that the war was over and that we had brought democracy to Iraq, and then the aftermath of that. Even Hurricane Katrina is referenced in my show.
So you're following history?
Correct. I mean, I think great art is a reflection of the time it was made.
And this piece ends up on monitors?
Yes. Right.
In the whole piece at the exhibition, there are hundreds of monitors.
Yes.
Here we have just a little block. Mm-hmm. But this camera goes into those?
Yes, this camera goes into that stack of 6, and in the show, it's a big grid of televisions surrounded by mirror. So it's very, very visual, and when you walk into it, it brings you somewhere else. And again, there's no question that here's a very serious subject, Abu Ghraib and the events of the war. But I am, in my own work, and this is the contradiction I was mentioning before, I'm sensationalizing that and turning it into entertainment. I mean, it's a very visual and beautiful piece that I make with this heavy subject matter.
From these very known, symbols of September 11th to the war, I want to go and look at something that surprised me a little bit.
Okay.
That I haven't, I haven't seen this guy before, but suddenly he pops up everywhere.
Yes.
In your work. I was looking at a book following the exhibition, and suddenly
There he is.
Yeah, the American president is watching television, and this face is on the screen.
Yes.
And also a photo from, I guess it's an aeroplane just before takeoff.
Right. That's right.
On this is normally where the security video is shown.
Yeah, it doesn't make people feel too secure when they see that guy come up on the screen.
Who is he?
Okay, so he started out as a self-portrait, and you mentioned before that I had not shown my work for 10 years, and that's true. And in New York, in the art world in general, if you don't show your work for a year or 2 years, you are really sort of forgotten about. And I guess I started to forget myself and I was really having an artistic dry spell. I think it happens to every artist where they have their moments of creativity and their other moments of more dry spells. So during that period, I was really questioning my life and what would have happened had I made some different life choices. So I made this hippie figure of a guy with long hair waking up on the beaches of Venice, California, the day after a drinking bout or something. And I had him in my studio, and sort of a suntan hippie. But I had him in my studio, and people would come by and they would say, hey, who's the homeless guy? Or is that Osama? Or is that Hussein? Because Hussein was just found and he had his long hair, and people were sticking flashlights into his hair looking for bugs, and so he became
also a very used
image. That's right, and sensationalized and exploited. So he became my hippie homeless terrorist dude, who was in some ways a kind of a floating signifier for all the things that were in the air at that point. So this is 2003, 2004, and then for the Palace at 4 a.m. I decided to bring him back as a central character. And you're right, it's not an image from the world. It's
the Palace at 4 a.m. is the title of the whole exhibition.
That's right.
But is this guy, you?
This guy is all of us.
Okay.
This guy has aspects of, all the world leaders and the terrorists and the sort of the aging hippies, all sort of, occupying the same world stage and impacting each other and rubbing up against each other. And it started as me, but, now he's become something else. He sort of, in some ways, has opened up and has just become a part of, everything. Yeah, here you go. This is a piece in the show called Evolution. And first he's waking up in the burning embers of the World Trade Center as the suntanned, hippie, homeless guy. Then he becomes a 4-star general, same guy, in Iraq, in the insurgency, fighting the insurgents. Oh. Then this is actually before the general. He's on a blog site, Kissing the Troops. That's why he's on an iMac there. This was sort of historically the moment when the troops came in and everything was glorious, and they thought,
Okay, so this is before he becomes.
Correct. So it really is a sequence: 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the general is 3, and the guy on the blog site is 2. And then finally he gets Botox. He gets a Botox treatment, and he becomes a right-wing senator. So the same guy in a piece called Evolution.
And now he's a guest on our show. Does he have a name? Just
Global Village Idiot.
Okay. And he is visiting the museum Louisiana because he's part of the whole show there, and what we've shown here tonight is just small details of a large installation.
Yeah.
Where is he going next?
He's going to his permanent home in Hamburg.
Okay.
It was the entire installation was bought by a collector there, who has his own museum, and so I'm really looking forward to it going to a place and not moving again. We've moved, since PS1, the show has moved 6 times.
PS1, the Department of Museum of Modern Art.
That's
in New
right.
York.
That's
Okay.
right. So the show started in New York, and then immediately came to Europe, and it's been here ever since.
Okay. And it's shown on Louisiana right now until the end of May.
That's right.
Are you in New York in the beginning of May?
I am. Yes.
Okay. You should go and see a Swedish artist called Perro del Mar. That means the dog from the sea.
Oh yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I'll just explain the viewers
Okay.
because we're going to listen to music now.
Okay.
Ja. Nu kan vi præsentere en svensk sangerinde, der har taget sit navn fra en omstrejfende hund, hun mødte på en strand i Spanien. Den var skyld i, at hun begyndte at synge og skrive sange. Hun er svensk, hedder i virkeligheden Sara Aspring. Hun er fra Göteborg, og hendes nye CD hedder The Valley to the Stars. Den udkom i februar. You don't understand the word I'm saying. But she's playing a song here called Glory to the World.
Oh.
So I guess we're ending this program with a little hope.
Yeah, it's interesting the difference.
And she's playing in New York the 7th and 8th.
I'd love to see it. Yeah, I'd love to know about it.
Good. Ja. Men her er Perro del Mar, Glory to the World.
Look at the clouds today. They show the funny shapes. Look at the clouds today. They show the funny shapes. Glory, glory, glory to the world. Glory, glory, glory to the world. Look at the flowers today. They make a crazy place. Look at the flowers today. They make a crazy place. Glory, glory, glory to the world. 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 Glory, glory, glory to the world.
Sara, må jeg lige spørge om noget?
Ja.
Din plade hedder From the Valley to the Stars,
Ja.
men navnet på gruppen er El Perro del Mar, og det betyder...
Det betyder hunden från havet.
Foretrækker du, at vi taler engelsk?
Ja, gärna.
Vil du hellere tale engelsk?
Ja,
Okay. So the story goes, you meet a dog
ja,
on a beach in Spain?
Yeah.
What happens then?
Well, it was a very strange moment because I was at this beach where, in a point in my life where I had just suddenly stopped writing music, and I was very lost. And up to me came this stray dog that was, maybe it was as lost as me. That's how I felt, or that's the way that I made the symbolization of it.
So the band is named after that dog?
Yeah, because I kind of created that name with the little school Spanish that I knew, and then when I came back to Sweden again, I started writing music.
But are you saying that because you met this dog, you started writing songs again?
Maybe, because it was like a reminder of how things can be precious and how things can be sweet and still good in life.
So aeroplanes crash into buildings, somebody starts making art,
Yeah,
others meet a dog on the beach,
Yeah.
and they start writing songs.
yeah, it was like that.
And this song is called Glory to the World.
Yeah,
It's a very catchy tune.
it is.
Yeah. So we need to make the credits now.
Yeah,
Could you just play along? And,
sure,
okay.
sure.